Welcome to the channel, or welcome back to the channel if you're returning. Thank you so much for watching the video. And today we're going to do something pretty cool. We are going to mash in some apple and sweet potato brandy. I tell you, I really like working with sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are cool because they pretty much convert themselves. They have the alpha and beta amylase in there. So pretty much all you have to do is let it run. But we're gonna make a pretty cool brandy today. And before we get going, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. So as I mentioned, we're gonna be working with about 5 pounds or so of sweet potatoes. We have 3 different variations of apples here. We have some Honeycrisp apples, some Granny Smith apples, and I believe these are Concord apples, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, we got about 10 pounds of apples here. Then we'll be going in with about 1.5 gallons of apple cider. We're going to go in there with some brown sugar, just to get us up to the ABV that we want. Of course, we are going to be using our Poland spring water to mash it. Let's get this going. Before we get that going, what I want to do is check my pH. Dropped in the water, and as you can see, I'm not sure if I can show it to you, we are a bit alkaline. This is citric acid. I am going to use some lemon juice. When you use your lemon juice, just remember that a little bit goes a long way. So we're going to go 1 tablespoon at a time just to see where we're at. So stir it up. .2. So we're at 5.2 on the pH. And right now I'm just boiling this water up. We're going to start washing our sweet potatoes. Okay, so now as you can see, we're just running these potatoes under some cold water. And as you can see, nothing too scientific. What I'm doing is just wringing the potatoes with my hands, just making sure I get all of the dirt off of the potatoes. You want to make sure all of the dirt is off the potatoes, and you can be ready to go. Okay, so now you can chop the potatoes, rough chop. You're just looking for nice chunky potato pieces, just things that will boil a bit fast and break down a bit easier. So nothing too scientific again, just chunk those potatoes up and you'll be ready. So our potatoes are now boiling. They've been boiling for a while, about an hour or so. And now you can see I'm able to mash those potatoes. So we're good to go. I'm going to take a temp. And as you can see, we're climbing and climbing and climbing. And we're about at 200 degrees. So at this point, I'm going to turn the heat off and just let those potatoes sit. And the reason why I'm letting those potatoes sit is because I want that alpha amylase to start to convert that a little bit. Quick point of note, you really don't need to do a starch conversion. I'm doing a starch conversion here because I'm a bit OCD. So you don't really have to do a starch conversion at this point. But now you're just going to go ahead and start mashing those potatoes down and releasing all of that flavor and starch. Okay, so now it's time to start working on the apples. So right now I'm just washing my apples, and what I'm going to do here is just wash and core. Make sure you take the stickers off, make sure you take the stems out if you want to, and again, just make sure you clean all of the dirt off of those apples under some cold water. And from there, we're going to start coring the apples and then chopping them up. Okay, so now we're just going to get a simple apple corer, And it's pretty cool. Gets rid of the seeds, gets rid of the stems, and we're going to get all of those cores out of there. Then what we're going to do is go in and start chunking up those apples. As you can see, nothing super scientific again. We just want to get some apple chunks. The reason why we cut these things up is just to release all of those flavors and those sugars. And it makes it easier when you're cooking your mash. So just get some apple chunks going and you'll be ready to go from there. What my apple chunks look like. This is about where you want them to be. Alright, so nothing too crazy. Okay, so now we've added all of the apples. And as you can see, everything's, stirring up pretty good. I'm going to take another temperature at this point just to see where we're at as far as heat goes. We're at about 180. What we're going to do now is just let this sit. So we're going to just let all of this cook in that hot water for about 40 minutes or so. Could be an hour, longer the better. But we're just going to let this sit for a little bit. Now this has been sitting for about 40 minutes. As you can see, everything's soft. And just remember to always stir. Continue to stir, stir, stir as you're moving through this process. It really releases all of those flavors. So after it's been sitting for a while, now we're ready to add our apple cider. So like I said, we're going to go in with 1.5 gallons of this apple cider. Make sure it's pasteurized apple cider, no chemicals or anything like that. And we're going in with the first gallon, and then we're going to go in with the next 1/2 gallon. I would say if you want to use 2 gallons, that's fine as well. You really get a strong apple flavor when you use that apple cider. And again, always stir, stir, stir. You always want to stir. So I just took a temperature. I was about 150, 140. So what I'm going to do now is just let all of this sit. Again, you're building the flavor. So just let this sit. And then we're going to start temping down to get to our optimal yeast pitching temperature. Okay, so after an hour, it was about at 140 about 120 or so. So to get this down to temp, and I think I missed something earlier in the video, I started off with 2.5 gallons of spring water when I was boiling the potatoes and the apples. So right now, this volume is possibly at about 3 gallons. So that leaves me enough to add another gallon of water, cold spring water, and that should bring us down to about 100 or so, 110 degrees or so. So right now I'm just adding some additional water and to cool down the temperature of this mash. Okay, so what I want to do now is just get a sample. And I just want as much liquid as possible, and I'm going to start taking a gravity reading. As you see, I'm straining all the solids out so I can get a nice gravity to just see how much sugar I need to put into this mash. I have a decent amount there just to start testing the gravity. So right now we're taking a gravity reading. We're going to use our hydrometer. And remember, this is the hydrometer. The easiest way to remember it, this is the hydrometer with the colors on it. So as you can see, there's not too much sugar in this mash. So we're going to go in with a few pounds of sugar just to get that gravity up to where we want it to be. Okay, so right now I'm going to go in with about 4 pounds of brown sugar. Now, just remember, you can go in with as much sugar as you think you need. I like to stair step it, so as you can see, I'm going to add 4 pounds of sugar, and then what I'm going to do is take another reading. Still not where I want to be. I'm still at like 0.06. I'm going to go on with another 2 pounds of sugar, take another reading. And the reason why you do this is sometimes some apples may have more sugar than the others. That's the reason why I didn't really put in 10 pounds of sugar at the beginning. I did end up going with 10 pounds of brown sugar for this mash, but the stair step process I feel is a bit more safer when you're when you're adding sugar, because you don't want to overshoot your sugar. And as you can see now, we're at 1.090. So we're going to leave it there, and this is ready to go. Um, Now what we're doing is just some housekeeping. We're going to take a pH of the mash. Shouldn't be too far off of the 5.2. It's at 5.50. Again, we're stirring and stirring and stirring. And really, with all of this stirring and mixing that I'm doing, what you're going to notice is that the temperature is going to drop. So my temperature is almost ready for yeast. I believe this is about 90, or I'm sorry, about 100 or 90 or so. Now I'm going to go in with about 4 spoons of yeast nutrient. You need that yeast nutrient to give that a nice healthy place for those yeast to eat up all of those sugars. So I went in there with about 4 spoons of yeast nutrient. I'm going to mix that around, and then we'll be ready to get our yeast going. Okay, so some people call it a yeast starter, some people call it a proof. I like to get my yeast nice and activated before I dump it in my mash. So what I'm doing now is I have like about a half gallon jar, and I'm going to fill that up about a third of the way, um, close to half of the way full, and with the mash. And I like to do this just to also make sure that my mash is going to ferment. So here's a view of my yeast starter here, and just want to show you what it looks like after you put some yeast into your mash. And this is what's going to be going on in your mash bucket. So or your fermenter. So I now just put about 4 spoons in. I notoriously overpitch, but about 4 spoons of yeast in there. I'm going to mix it up um, to get things going. And now just take a quick view of what it looks like. I let this sit for about 15 to 20 minutes just to get it going. So let's take a look at the process. Okay, so I've loaded the mash into my fermenting bucket here um, after everything is done. And I'm just going to take a final temperature just to make sure I'm at about, I'm in between 90, 95, could be close to 100, give or take, but around 95 is what I'm shooting for. And it looks like that I'm where I need to be. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and dump that yeast starter into the mash here and stir it around. Pretty thick glob. Everything is activated, and this is my preferred method of pitching yeast to get it started first. And yeah, we're just going to stir this around. Make sure it's incorporated. Some people say you don't have to stir. Some people say you should stir. I think you should stir. I think just sprinkling it on top. Um, I don't know. Logically, to me, it doesn't really make sense. Um, Now, what I noticed is I didn't have a lot of headspace. Now, when you're dealing with fruits, you want to keep about 2 inches of headspace or so, just to give it some room to grow a bit, because you are going to get a little bit of head, just like we saw in that yeast starter, that uh, the yeast does grow a bit of foam, a cap at the top. So when you're dealing with any sort of grains or fruits, you do want to leave about 2 inches. I'm going to put my top on. Remember, I sterilize all of my equipment. I usually use rubbing alcohol, but Star San is also good as well. We're all ready to go. And then what we're going to do is now grab our bubbler. And what I like to put in my bubbler is usually heads from a previous run. I do repurpose my heads for cleaning solution and things like that. But yeah, once the bubbler goes on, everything's in, and that's the mash. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you got something out of this. I hope you enjoyed it, and give it a shot. Leave a comment if there's any mashes you want me to try next. Please feel free to leave a comment, and also leave a comment to let me know what you think of the video. Really appreciate it. Thanks again. This is Randy Blue, and it's a thing. Enjoy it.